Alright, welcome back to another episode of Conqueror and Commander. Today we're going to be talking about my Jor Kadeen the Prevailer deck. For the complete deck list, go to puremtgo.com, look up Conqueror and Commander, or Jor Kadeen, and you should be able to find the list all written out nice and neat so you can take a closer look at it. Jor Kadeen is a Boros-themed commander. He's a 5-mana, 5/4 for striker, but obviously the reason why people like to play with him is the Metalcraft ability. Even without the Metalcraft ability, he's not a horrible creature. I mean, a 5/4 for striker is still pretty brutal to deal with in combat. But when you make him an 8/4 for striker for 5 mana, he's that much better. Now, Jor Kadeen actually doesn't suggest necessarily any specific type of deck. You can go a whole bunch of different ways. You can go warrior or soldier tribal. You can go pure tokens, just to get the biggest bang for your buck, I guess, if you want. You could also go all artifact creatures. I've seen some mirror decks based around Jor Kadeen. I'd actually seen him used a few times recently, and I figured I'd give my own crack at him. And what I did was kind of like a weird amalgamation of all those, along with an equipment-based theme as well. And so that's what we have here today. First things first is the equipment here. We're doing the 4 good swords: Feast and Famine, Fire and Ice, War and Peace, Light and Shadow. The blue and green one is poop. I hate it. I don't like to play with it, so therefore it's not in here. I've also got Skull Clamp because I am going to be making some amount of tokens. Lightning Greaves and Swiftfoot Boots to give creatures haste, and Jit, or Yumazawa's. I don't know. I don't play real life Magic, so I have no idea how to pronounce it. This is one piece of equipment that I guess you don't necessarily need, but I enjoyed it, so I kept it in here. Now, as everybody knows, there is a decent amount of good equipment search and tutors in this color, even though you don't get access to Demonic Tutor. You still have Stonehewer Giant, Tajnar Swordsmith, which puts the piece of equipment directly into play, Stoneforge Mystic, and Enlightened Tutor. There's only really one enchantment in the deck, and that's Land Tax. But Enlightened Tutor gets you a full variety of artifacts if you need it. And Godo's another enchantment, or I'm sorry, equipment searcher. Imperial Recruiter actually has a decent amount of little targets in this deck, so I really liked using him as well. Obviously a decent piece of tutoring. Now, there's 2 main issues with this color combination. One is the lack of card draw, and the other is that you're never really going to be able to keep up most of the time with any deck that's packing green. So let's talk about my ways of dealing with the mana issues. I've got a bunch of different mana rocks. Mox Opal is in here because it's just a cool little Mox. Soul Ring, the Signet, Mana Crypt, Tumor, Iron and Gold Myrrh. And then on top of that I have Tithe, Land Tax, which fulfill similar roles. And then Knight of the White Orchid. Because most of the time, and Solemn Simulacrum, most of the time you're going to be behind on the mana race. It's rare when you're actually ahead. Druidic Satchel is a nice little piece of tech because it either gives you the token or the land, and on the rare occasion you do get the 2 life. But, you know, it ends up working out pretty well. So I found that most of the time I didn't have any mana problems with this deck. In addition, I'll talk about the overall CMC of the deck later, but it's pretty low. For draw, we've got Wheel of Fortune, Reforge the Soul, Staff of Nin, and Mind's Eye. It doesn't seem like a whole lot of draw, but with the amount of tutoring I have in here, plus I have some recursion, it ended up working out alright. And I guess Sword of Fire and Ice is another piece of draw in here as well. One of the originals, probably the best. Really depends on how you want to play. Speaking of recursion, let's take a look at what we've got here. Remember the Fallen can get you an artifact and a creature, so nice little 2 for 1 there. Junk Diver, Emeria. I did find that there were plenty of times when I was able to get Emeria going, so that was good. Sun Titan gets most of your equipment back. Revelark, I've got a bunch of small casting cost creatures in here, and then Sanctum Gargoyle is an artifact creature who can get a artifact back into your hand. So, you know, it's a nice amount of recursion here as well. Let's go ahead and look at what we got going for our destruction / removal suite. We got some pretty standard stuff here, and Return to Dust and Duplicate. Soltari Visionary, I liked him, number one, because he has Shadow, and he can hit harder when you've got Metalcraft going with Jor Kadeen out, and he's practically unblockable. Plus, you know, getting rid of enchantments is nice as well. Strip Mine. Martial Coup is my only Wrath effect in the deck, and it was more than enough, I found. I guess if you really wanted to play it safe, you could add Wrath of God in here or something like that, or even Austere Command. But I just found I didn't need it. The deck's aggressive enough where if I just could coup for 5, then, you know, usually I could play Jor Kadeen the next turn and start pounding. Swords of Plowshares, Path to Exile, Condemn, you know, all the nice little 1 mana removal spells. Ravenous Baboons. There's a nice Imperial Recruiter tutor target. And occasionally you did have to blow up specialty lands. Vandal Blast is a card I never drew, and I played this deck a lot. I never drew this card. No idea why. However, I did get the Hedge Mage, again another nice little tutor target for the Recruiter. Soltari Gorillas is my nice little find. I was looking at shadow creatures, and on top of the Visionary, the Gorillas were nice because, again, the damage can get through, and if you have Jor Kadeen out here, they can take out pretty much any creature on the board. And you don't always have to use the ability. You can just, you know, pound through and get that damage through. But this guy was cool, and I liked him a lot. Alright, moving on, we've got our Parties in a Can. Technically, I guess, Martial Coup is a party in a can, but we've got Mirror Battlesphere, Precursor Golem. What I like most about these two guys is that they're automatic Metalcraft enablers. Hero of Bladehold isn't a party in a can per se, but with 2 attacks, all of a sudden you got 4 other tokens out there, and with the Battle Cry ability, she adds to your Metalcraft ability that Jor Kadeen provides, and then everybody just hits harder. Captain of the Watch. This space was either going to go to Captain of the Watch or Siege Gate Commander. The Siege Gate Commander can be tutored for with the Recruiter, and then you can, if you want, sacrifice the Goblins and throw them directly at people. However, I did like the fact that the Captain of the Watch just busted out more power, and it gave your soldiers vigilance. I do have a couple of soldier... Do I actually? What soldiers do I have in here? I think it's really just mainly the Martial Coup that brings soldier tokens to the battlefield. I thought I had more soldiers. God, I think I took them all out. Wow. Oh, Ranger of Eos. Okay, yeah, Ranger of Eos is another soldier, and he's not technically a party in a can, but he's a nice little tutor target because I've got 4 different 1-mana creatures that are all powerful in their own way. Here, Sarah Ascendant, obviously people hate him. Dragon Master Outcast doesn't do anything for a turn, but then he starts pumping out 5/5 dragons, which is awesome. The Welder is great in any artifact-themed deck, and then Figure of Destiny is pumpable and can become big and scary. So, the Ranger turned out real well. Over here is sort of like my catch-all pile, more or less. Anger is my only haste enabler, but aside from equipment, I wanted to try and fit Urabrask in here, but I just couldn't, so he didn't make the cut. Anger was the only one. Etched Champion, Wormcoil Engine, these are just good artifacts. Indomitable Archangel protects all your artifacts. I tried to fit like Spectral Guardian in, and I'm guessing a lot of people aren't going to know what Spectral Guardian is. There's the Metalcraft guys. I didn't really include any of these guys other than Jor Kadeen. I wanted to include Kuldotha Phoenix, but the triple red wasn't very helpful. And then Pure Steel Paladin, I just didn't feel like I had enough equipment really to justify him. And on top of that, my equip costs were pretty low. I don't have anything that costs more than 2 to equip. So Pure Steel Paladin didn't make the cut. Spectral Guardian is a fun Mirage card that I really like, but unfortunately it affects all non-creature artifacts, including those of your opponents, which isn't a big problem for this deck, but occasionally it is an issue. So I didn't put him in the deck. Mirran Crusader is just a beater that with double strike, so any of the equipment you put on him, any of the swords, is just going to hurt twice as much. And then, you know, giving your big bad boys double strike with the Silverblade Paladin is always awesome. And then Sculpting Skill, Scroll Rack works well with land tax. Boros Charm is the only new card in the deck, and it's pretty cool. I like it a lot. You know, even the doing 4 damage to target player, this is really a versatile charm, so I recommend it for all you Boros players out there. The land base is pretty standard. I've got Sunhome in there for double strike, and then Slayer's Stronghold to give creatures haste. Mishra's Workshop, this card was hit and miss for me. I liked it because it was able to bring out a lot of like high casting cost artifacts quicker, but not being able to use it to activate things was kind of frustrating. But it worked out well. Darksteel Citadel, Metalcraft Enabler along with Great Furnace, and then I don't remember what the white one is. Like, it's not Arid Mesa, it's Ancient Den or something, I think. Yeah, there it is, Ancient Den. And then, you know, your regular non-basics. So aside from the Metalcraft stuff that I didn't include, and then Urabrask, the one other card that I wanted to put in here was Slowbad, Goblin Tinkerer. Just because, you know, you can sacrifice stuff to make your important artifacts indestructible. But he just didn't work out. Well, he just didn't make the cut. It's not that he didn't work out. It's just that he didn't make the cut. One other card that I forgot to talk about was Trading Post. Never drew it. Not once. But it seems like it'd be great. You know, it's a bit of recursion slash, you know, weenie, you know, maker slash do a little bit of everything. Let's take a look at the stats here. Here's my mana curve. It really gains, you know, gathers around the 3. The average converted mana cost of the entire deck is 3. It's obviously higher on the white than red. Not a big deal. I've got, it says 31 lands. That's dumb, because over here it says 35. This is probably really on the lowest end that I ever do my number of lands, but I didn't really have too many mana problems. Again, with an average CMC of 3, 35 lands should be okay. So there we go. There's the deck. You know, it's an aggressive deck. It's a Boros deck. You're going to want to come out guns blazing most of the time. It's rare that I just kind of sat back and did nothing for the first few turns. One thing you may notice here is that there is no graveyard hate in this deck, which means that if you see a deck that depends on their graveyard, such as Carador, Ghost Chieftain, gun for them first. If you're playing with this deck. Otherwise, you may want to include like a Tormod's Crypt or something like that if you're really worried about graveyard hate. I didn't find that it was much of an issue. I was often able to kill the graveyard guys quickly, but you know, it's something to be aware of. No graveyard hate in this deck. Otherwise, you just come out, you know, start beating down on things, and then draw cards where possible, recur stuff where needed, tutor stuff up that you want. It's not a real like heavy thought laden deck, but you know, it's a ton of fun. Jor Kadeen, he's badass. Anyways, I'll be showing some games here, so take a look.